All right. So from the years of experience we've all had as agents, we see the same activity turn buyers away from houses. And then we can see similar activities over and over that will draw a buyer to the house. So today I wanted to focus on things we see sellers make mistakes and it just keeps them from selling the house. So I'm kind of do it in reverse. So I've picked 3. So I'm going to start from 3 and work our way up to the number 1 answer. So number 3 to me is when we limit buyer access in any way. So a big one for us, because we manage rental properties, there are some tenants that are going to make it extremely difficult to get into the house, for the house to show well. So you may need to wait until a tenant is out of the house. But we have seen it where if a house doesn't show well, or the tenant just denies the showing, they're not going to be able to get in, or they get in and they hate the house because of the way the tenant has the house. Barking dogs would be another one. I don't know, have you ever been in a house, CJ, showing where dogs are barking?
Oh my gosh, it's such a distraction. And when I'm meeting with sellers, one of the things I tell them is the dogs, pets, period, need to be removed from the home for the showing, because some people are just terrified of various pets. But besides that, you don't want to be the house that they remember because the dog is, and
Yes.
it's very distracting, and it doesn't leave a pleasant environment for most people, so that you walk away from a house like that with a negative feeling. And that's, of course, not the way we want our houses to be remembered. We want it to be remembered as the house with the amazing summer kitchen, or the pool, or the great backyard, or those wonderful floors, not the house that smelled like this, or the dogs were barking, or the ones we kept tripping over the rugs, or whatever. We need to remove all the negative that we can possibly find, because we want to only leave the positive experiences.
Yep, absolutely. They're there to see your house, not to visit your dog.
Mm-hmm.
Agree. And then another one on this same note of making the home accessible, I was also thinking of times where sellers don't want to leave and they stay in the house, or a tenant. We had a tenant that hovered over the buyer. And generally speaking, for me, buyers need to be able to say, honey, I don't really like that paint color. And they'll answer, yeah, we could do this color. So sometimes it helps them to be able to talk and work through what they may not like. Whereas especially if the homeowner's there, they're not going to want to offend the homeowner. So they may not talk about it, and they just leave like, I didn't like that. And they never reach a solution of how can we overcome what we don't like. I don't know, have you had that experience as well, where how it goes negative if the seller stays in the showing?
I have, both on the listing side and the selling side. I've had agents reach out to me and say, it was really awkward having the seller follow us around and try to do the showing for us. I know they know the most about the property, but your listing did a great job of articulating what those real positives were. It just makes it awkward, because buyers can't speak freely and it also communicates, hey, I don't trust you in my house,
Right.
to walk around and not mess with things that don't belong to you and stuff. But on the times when you can, load the dogs up, load the kids up, step off the property, wait outside, whatever. You do need to let them walk around and speak freely.
Yeah, some challenges we're running into now, especially with COVID, is folks who work from home. So I know we have one seller, he has to do, speaking of Zoom, which we're on, he has to do Zoom meetings. So he can't leave the house when working at home during certain hours. So there are times we absolutely have to work around schedules, but at the very least, like you said, if a seller can just step out, take the dog for a walk, or sit on the back porch, but preferably not even be in sight or have ever seen the buyer. If that's what's going to put the buyer at the most ease, to walk through the house and find what they love about it to be able to make an offer. So this brings us to the number 2 mistake that we see sellers make. And this one, I cringe every time I hear it. And that is, I'll just offer a repair credit instead of. So the instead of means we know we have an obstacle in the way that's going to keep a buyer from liking the house. The number one I hear is, well, instead of replacing the carpet, I'll just give a flooring allowance. So carpet has a life, and eventually it has to be replaced. And especially if we've got stains from Kool-Aid, stain from young kids, stains from pets, stain, whatever has got it messed up, that is not easy for a buyer to overlook. Small amount of buyers will be able to look and see potential, but most walk in, see something they don't like, turn around and walk out. So, or if they do decide to make an offer, the carpet that you would have spent $3,500 on, the buyer's going to offer $10,000 less. So, I don't see, do you have any of those experiences you can share?
Yeah, the other thing I would add to that, because that's pretty clear. I mean, and that's exactly what buyers do. A job that might cost you $3,500, the buyer thinks it costs $10,000. So rather than just replacing that carpet or doing that little job, they start deducting, because then they think to themselves, hey, well, if I find this, I might find more. And that's the thing,
true.
especially when you walk in, carpet is or flooring is particularly gross. The more you see, the more you look for, the more you find. When you don't see a bunch of stuff, you stop looking for more stuff. And then, yeah. Whereas if you walk in and the flooring is fresh and new, and the paint is fresh and new, and things look crisp and clean and what have you, then they don't even look for more stuff.
Yep, I absolutely agree. And you mentioned paint. I think flooring would be number one. Number two would be paint. Paint wears just from handprints, from everyday use, from furniture rubbing on it. Like eventually the paint you have to repaint. So, and it's funny too, because we've had sellers where we'll go in and say, you need to do this, this, and this to make the house show its best. And they go in and do those things. And then we've had a seller not want to move because we get complacent. We get complacent. We get comfortable. Oh, it's just a scuff over there. So this over there. And you get used to it when you've lived there over and over. And then when you fix it all up and it's shiny and flashy and pretty and new looking, that's what, yeah, you're right. We've had a couple of sellers that are like, well, then, you know what? I'm not going to sell. So if it made that much of an impression on the owner that lived there, just imagine how much better of an impression you're going to make to that buyer who walks in the door and sees it all sparkling new.
Yeah. Lisa, would you say the number 3 item on that particular point would be landscaping?
Yeah, yes, that's a good one. Oh my gosh, we have a listing now on Dunn's Lake that they have gone overboard. So on their landscaping, so I've recently bought some trees, and I don't know, maybe like 3-4 trees and 6 blueberry bushes. And at the end of the day, I've spent almost $500. And when I went after that, going back to our listing on Dunn's Lake, and I see how much landscaping they have done, they have thousands and if not multiple thousands of dollars in their yard. And it shows. It looks incredible. So yes, landscaping, that's your curb appeal. You know, so many agents will refer to, do you have curb appeal? Sometimes they'll pull up, not like the outside, and never walk through the door. So curb appeal landscaping would be a very big item.
Yeah.
All right. So this brings us to the number one mistake that sellers make. And this is worse than hearing, I'll just give a repair credit instead of. This is when I cannot. It's so hard to tackle sometimes too. Well, and we give you, your agent is going to give you a value for the house. It's based on the size of your house. It's based on your community. And then you say, okay, your house should sell for at most $250. Well, I want a price for $275 so I can negotiate. I can always come down.
Tell them to make an offer. Tell them to make an offer. Yeah.
Yeah. So just tell them to bring an offer. We're going to price up here. This is where your neighborhood's selling, but we're going to price it up here. Oh, my green screen messes it up. What happens more often than not, 2 things when you overprice. One, they just don't come at all because they're not going to pay that much to live in your neighborhood. We're not running into that so much right now because inventory is so low that they'll come look. In a market where we have plenty of inventory, they're just not going to come because there's enough for them to go look at that's priced right. But however, right now with inventory low, you'll probably still get the foot traffic. The buyers will come look, but when they see in comparison what they're getting for the dollar, they're either just not going to offer at all because they don't want to offend you. And that's the thing, like, I'll price high so they can make me an offer. Well, a lot of people won't. They won't make the offer because they're afraid they're going to offend you because you're 25,000 overpriced. So I'm going to definitely say overpricing is the number one way not to sell your home.
Yes, I agree.
We do give free market evaluations. So if you want to know what your home is worth, what range it would sell for, we can give you an idea for the community, but it really takes a walkthrough because we want to see what upgrades you have to see how far up that price range we can get you. And we would also at that time give you ideas on what you need to do around the house to make it more attractive. In addition to carpet and paint, there's some simple things you can do, like moving this piece of furniture over there will make the room look much bigger. But we're going to do another video on that one where we give you the 5 top tips that will help you sell your home.
Just call the team at Lisa Duke when you're ready to sell because we get it sold.
We absolutely do. We have sold over 1,500 transactions. So again, we know if you do this, this, or this, it's not going to sell. Number one, overpricing. But we also know if you do these 5 things, it's going to sell, especially in today's market with low interest rates and not enough inventory for the amount of buyers we have.